Hello, and welcome back to another episode of General Conference Conversations, podcast where we have conversations about General Conference. I'm your host, Kaylin, and I am super excited to be here with you guys today. We are discussing the first talk in the Saturday evening session called Miracles, Angels, and Priesthood Power by Elder Bowen. And as always, I encourage you to listen to or read or watch this talk before you come and listen to me talk all of my nonsense about it, so you can get your own promptings and inspirations and everything like that. So to quickly recap, it's a pretty straightforward talk. It talks about miracles, angels, and priesthood power. So he testifies of miracles and the priesthood's role in them specifically, and he shares some stories from his life and from his family history of miraculous events, and his testimony of their divine origin. And so, like I said, it's a really straightforward talk. It's all about miracles. It's all about the fact that we have the priesthood today that facilitates miracles and miraculous healing and all of this stuff, right? And he reminds us that President Nelson has taught us to expect miracles. He talks about some very miraculous healing things that happened to, I believe, his great-grandfather and also to himself. And then at the very, very end, he says, "I witness that miracles have not ceased. Angels are among us, and the heavens are open, and oh, how open they are." And I think it was a really beautiful, very simple talk. So it's probably going to be on the shorter side, just because, I don't have a lot to add to this, right? It's very straightforward. It's miracles and angels and priesthood. But I did look up, so I was thinking about miracles, and I think when we think about miracles, we think of the big things, right? Obviously, what he talks about in this talk, he shares stories of his grandfather bringing his mother back to life, and he gave his daughter a priesthood blessing after a car accident. She took her first breath in minutes, right? And she lived and went on to get married and have kids. And so of course we think of those big things as miraculous. We have spontaneous healing, one day somebody has cancer and the next day they don't. And somebody survives a car accident that shouldn't have, or you get a job that you never should have been able to, or you never thought you would have been able to, right? And so we think about these really big things, which is fair, obviously. The miracles that Christ performed were all big healing, and big deals in people's lives, right? And this is the definition of a miracle. It says, a surprising and welcome event that is not explicable by natural or scientific laws and is therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency. And there it is, right? Miracles are something that cannot be explained by science, cannot be explained by nature, and therefore can only be by God's influence, right? And I remember learning a very similar, it wasn't this exact definition, but I remember reading something very similar on my mission of a miracle is something that can only be because of God. And thinking about it that way, you think of the big things, but also what are the small things in our days that can only be because of divine intervention, right? What are the little miracles and things, the ways that we see that God loves us? I don't know. I've told the story before. and I've told this story this season, so we're gonna repeat a little bit. But I had a companion on my mission who her favorite weather is when it's raining but it's still sunny out. And it is like a very interesting thing. It doesn't happen very often, right? Like, it's raining, usually the clouds come in and there's no sun and it's just rain. So it's just really beautiful when it's raining and there's still sun out, and so it's like sparkling, and you're kind of like, it kind of messes with your brain because it's like, wow, it's raining right here, but I still see the sun. Like, it doesn't happen super often, and it is really beautiful. And that's her favorite weather. Like, that's just something that, like, just puts her in awe. And there was one day as a missionary, she had a really, really, really crappy day, and she, like, they had a bunch of people cancel, a bunch of like appointments fell through. I think even their dinner appointment canceled. Like, it was just a bad day. And she was riding her bike in the middle of Arizona heat, so it was terrible. And she was just miserable, and that happened. It rained and it was still sunny out. And she was like, to anybody else, that would have just been normal, right? It would have been like, oh, that's cool, it doesn't happen very often, it looks kind of cool, and like all this stuff. But she's like, for me, it was a miracle. It was the way that I saw that God loved me. Like, it was a manifestation of God's love in my life. I talked about this with Elder Holland's talk at the very beginning of this season, right? That, like, he talks about doubling your gratitude with wonder, doubling, what is it? It was something like that, right? Like, not only are you like seeing the gratitude in your life, or seeing the amazing things in your life, you're doubling that wonder. Oh yeah, doubling your wonder with gratitude, something like that. But like, you're also acknowledging where it's coming from. You're acknowledging the divine origins and the love. Like, the background of this is that God loves you so much, he's giving this to you in your life. And so yeah, and she was doing that, right? She was noticing this and not just seeing it as like, oh, this is my favorite weather, I love this, this makes me so happy, but also as like, God loves me so much that he's showing me that even though today was terrible, like, he still sees me and he still loves me. And so I've really like started to think of miracles in a very different way and in a very different light. That like we say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? I also think miracles can be in the eye of the beholder. And we see this in scriptures also, where it's like somebody will witness a miracle, but they don't see it that way. They don't see the miracle. And I think that's what President Nelson means when he says to seek and expect miracles, right? When I first heard him, I was like, but we're not supposed to like look for signs, right? We're not supposed to seek signs. We're not supposed to demand signs from God. That's like, that can be unfaithful. It's like, oh, well, then prove it, right? Prove that you're God. And so that like kind of got me. I was like, we're gonna seek miracles? Like, that's weird. Shouldn't we not be? We're not supposed to search them out. We're not supposed to demand for signs, right? But if we're not paying attention, we also don't see the miracles around us, the miracles that are happening, the blessings that God gives us, the things that can only come about from divine intervention. And so my question for you is, what miracles have you seen in your life today? Just today, right? What happened today, or in the last few days, maybe in the last week, that could only have happened through divine intervention, that could only have happened because God did something in your life? And sometimes it's choosing to believe that it is from God, right? Maybe it could have happened any other way. Maybe it was just a coincidence, But if we choose to say, no, I think that was God, right? I believe that that was God showing me his love today. I think that can change our minds a lot. And I think that can help us when we're like, well, I don't see miracles in my life, right? I've never had a laying on of hands experience where someone was healed, right? I've never seen someone brought back from the dead. I've never seen a miraculous healing. And so when we think about that, like, well, I'm not seeing miracles, but when you reframe it in that way of like, that's anything that could only have happened because of divine intervention, is not explainable by anything else, right? The coincidence of coming across your favorite person that you weren't supposed to see today, but that made your day, that's a miracle. That happened because God, like, you can choose to believe that. And I think that's amazing. And like, you can look for those miracles. We're not always going to see ones that like hit us in the face and just like are very obviously miracles, and we don't always need to. So that's my question, is what miracles have you seen in your life? And they could be big, right? Maybe you have seen a miraculous healing, but also what are the small things? That's all I've got for you guys today. Like I said, it's going to be a short one, but short and sweet, I think. Thank you so much for listening and or watching. I want to hear your miracles. I want to hear your thoughts about this. So you can drop a comment here or over on Instagram or Facebook, or send me an email or a message if you want to do it more privately. I'd love to have a conversation with you guys. So I will talk to you next time.